All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad you could spare some time to join me for today's webinar, Voice, Vision, and Visibility, how RV dealers can stay on the map. Now, if you were at RVDA, I actually did this presentation, and we said the feedback was good enough, the conversations were good enough. Let's just do it again. So I didn't have to reinvent the wheel for today. So I'm excited that you all joined me, and we're going to go ahead and dive into it. There's some more folks who had registered who are not watching live yet, but we have a little bit of an opening preamble that won't take away from the learning objectives in case they join in the next few minutes or watch the recording after we've sort of concluded for today. We're going to go through some context. I want to set the stage for why we're going to talk about the things we're going to cover. I want to give you a summary of takeaways, and we're going to go into a Q&A. So if you have some questions you already have in mind, towards the end or at any point in time, drop them into the Q&A, and I'll get to them at the end. Or if you have some questions that happen along the way, just pop them in there as they might come up based on some of the stuff that we cover. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So who is this guy? Who's this guy that you are now watching on the screen to cover today's information? My name is Dane Saville. I'm the director of brand experience at SearchLab. That's a fancy schmancy title to say I get to do stuff like this. I get to, speak on behalf of the many brilliant folks here at SearchLab, and it's really exciting. A lot of the different things that we're doing. I'm going to share some studies with you that we've actually done at SearchLab. We try not to rest our laurels on previous experiences. We want to continually test. And I apologize for the reflection here in my glasses. I'm going to take myself off the screen once we actually get into the meat and potatoes of today. But before that, I was SearchLab's director of SEO. Before that, I was content director and a brand expansion director at an agency I helped co-found that I grew from 6 of us, or helped grow, I shouldn't say alone, that I helped grow from 6 of us to 57 of us before I left that agency. And before that, I was the content director of a 33-store franchise automotive group. So I know that's not quite RVs, but I understand if you got a VIN attached to it, I kind of know how to create a strategy for you. So let's go ahead and keep going. So you're probably hearing a lot about AI, about GEO, AI, LLM SEO, right? It's a whole acronym word salad. We're going to kind of break that all down because it feels like one big chest crushing hit. Oh, and one thing I should probably mention, these images are me. I was a pro wrestler for 20 years. And so in the bottom of every slide, I put in who that person is I'm in the ring with. So, but all this stuff that you're hearing, all this fear mongering, all these things happening, all the confusion, chaos, it feels like one big chest crushing hit. And so we want to dispel some of that. So I'm going to take myself off the screen so you can focus solely on what's coming up on the slides. Actually, no, I can't. Never mind. I can't take myself away because then you won't hear me anymore. I'm still getting used to this platform. So you're going to have to look at this mug for a while. So here's what's happening, right? 57%. So this comes from a study, Search Engine Land. 57% of people conducted in a study say they prefer search engines for personal, medical, or financial research. So you're hearing about people going to ChatGPT and Perplexity and all these other platforms that people aren't really using Google anymore. Yes, they are. So again, 57% still prefer traditional search engines. So whether it's Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, et cetera, people are turning to things that, the process they're familiar with. 48% verify answers across multiple platforms. So just because they might start with ChatGPT does not mean they stay on ChatGPT. They want to verify the information that they're receiving because people know that, well, you've heard that these things can hallucinate, right? And 19%, only 19% trust AI results versus 45% for search engines. So there's still some trust issues happening with those LLMs. There's also other stuff that I don't have as a screenshot or a slide or a data point to show. But there's actually even a study out there that shows a precipitous drop in use of ChatGPT in June, beginning of June. Why is that? Kids are out of school. They're not writing their papers. They're not doing research with ChatGPT anymore. So, there's a lot of other data to really understand what's happening in the search ecosystem and what people are really truly doing. Right? Google's market share is still 93.57%. So still the dominant player in search. Google saw 21% search volume growth, right? Antitrust lawsuits, people saying SEO is dead, all this mumbo jumbo happening. Google's not going anywhere. In fact, Sam Altman, OpenAI, just declared a code red. They're not going to start. He's pulling all their priorities, ads into ChatGPT, other efforts, other tools, things they were building out. It's code red at OpenAI because they know they're going to have their lunch eaten by Google. So it's focusing on ChatGPT and the actual sort of LLM output and process and algorithms behind the scene, the sort of the way it's producing the information it's giving people. They're solely focused on that now. And that's one of those facts that unfortunately upset folks who are trying to provide misinformation in the ecosystem. Google also processes, 373 times more search-like prompts, meaning when people are looking for products or services or comparing, when they have more shopping behaviors, search-like, right? They're seeking something out. Google processes so many more of those types of searches than ChatGPT. We did a study here at SearchLab of 1,600 queries ranging from transactional, commercial to informational. We want to see what is the penetration for local search, for local searches. What is that penetration of Google's AI overviews? Because you're probably hearing about how it's taking over everything. Yes, Google's trending towards where it's going to be default AI mode. Yes, there is growth in AI overviews, but for local search, especially for transactional, people are still largely seeing the blue links and the local pack, the things that they're used to seeing in search. So in our study, we conducted it back in March. I then went and revised it, reconducted it again in September. There's a growth from 3% to 10.5% of transactional queries triggering an AI overview. Caveat to that, and here's the thing, Google is working towards personalizing results. So here's why I say it's an average of 10.5%. In addition to 1,600 queries, I chose 3 very different metros, right? One of them was here at Pensacola, where I live. When I would conduct searches like Ford car dealerships near me, where to purchase a Ford F-150 Pensacola, AI overviews triggered 20% of the time. Why? Because in this market, there is only one Ford dealer nearby, right? There's only one representative of the brand. So Google's saying, look, I don't want to give this guy just that option. Google wants to satisfy my intent. If I'm looking for the best deal or the best place or what's near me, Google produced an AI overview above the traditional results to say, hey, this place is real close to you, but here are your alternatives to purchase an F-150. Here are your alternatives to drive to see that particular dealership. Whereas in Dallas was another metro I chose. In Dallas, there are tons of industries or organizations representing RVs, other brands and franchise automotive. In Dallas, it was 2%. 2% of transactional searches triggered an AI overview because Google doesn't need to give me a summary, an output of here are my alternatives. There's plenty of choice in the Dallas market. So when people talk about tracking in AI overviews, if they say they accurately track how many times your citation is bupkis, because every market is different and my search behaviors influence that too. So my search behaviors will influence that. There is so much more volatility in AI overview citations than there is even in what shows up as a blue link. Commercial searches grew from 29% to 82.6% when an AI overview was triggered for a commercial search. So again, that's comparing Class A to Class B, whether it's comparing Grand Design to Keystone, all the different types of different sort of mid-funnel searches. And then lastly, this is not necessarily a surprise. informational queries grew from about 29% to 97%. So that's not shocking, right? When you're looking just for general information, high level questions, Google wants to give that summary of pulling out different pieces of information to develop a most appropriate, helpful, accurate answer. Here is a slide. This is the times that SEO has died, right? You've probably heard recently SEO is dead. This is even all of the instances, but from 2010 to 2025, here are some of the most major articles that let you know that SEO had died. More lives than a cat. So SEO is not dead, very much alive and well. So here's one thing that makes AI Dane quite angry, and that is that there's a lot of misinformation in the marketplace. There are people who are stretching the truth. Right now, I want to say that there are some things you need to focus on a little bit differently. There are some additional tactics to apply for generative outputs, but generative outputs, when ChatGPT needs to search for, right? It can't rely on its training data. It needs to be grounded in live data. ChatGPT uses Bing and Google's indexes, right? ChatGPT doesn't have its own index, so it still turns to search engines. So what underpins success in search engines, SEO, is ultimately also what is leveraged to produce those outputs on other platforms. But there are folks who are stretching the truth that makes me also angry, but also sad because I'm tired of hearing that. And there are other things that are bothersome as well. But the big one, the one that bothers me the most, are the snake oil salesmen. They're trying to tell you that GEO is this absolutely new thing. And there are agencies out there who are providing SEO services and then say, oh, if you want to show up in generative answers, we got to charge you for our GEO service. Nonsense. Your agency, I don't care what acronym you want to use, right? If you personally go, you know what, I don't want to call it SEO anymore, I don't care. Call it LLM SEO, AI SEO, GEO, whatever you want to call it. Ultimately, it's not separate services. Your agency should be evolving their strategies and tactics to meet consumer behaviors. You should not be paying more for the service that basically underpins all these other acronym word salads. So don't, if you're talking to an agency and they tell you they have an SEO service that you can pay for and a GEO service that you'll have to pay for, run from them as fast as you can. So here's why I say that. You probably hear these GEO agencies and GEO gurus talking about, man, you got to talk about conversational search. You got to use natural language. You got to use the words that consumers are using. We've been talking about conversational search and SEO for a number of years now. We know for years now it's not just about putting keywords in different places. Yeah, you need to have topical coverage using keywords, but the context you build out needs to be natural. We know that already. Content optimization and Medium. LLMs love bullet lists. They love charts and graphs. They love what's called, people are really calling, running with chunkable, right? They love chunkable information. Yeah, making content readable, making it skimmable, matching what you produce to how people want to consume it. That's been SEO for years. Entity building. Oh, LLMs, they use multiple resources to understand who you are, the what, the where, the how, the why. Entity building. Think directory, citation building. We talked about brand mentions for years. We talked about link building and local link building for businesses like your RV dealership. We've talked about having consistency in how your business is described, your Google business profile. So entity building is not anything new. We've been talking about it for a long time in SEO. Informational architecture. So HTML, the code that goes on the back end of the site. You got to have clean HTML for the LLMs to be able to understand it. Yeah, that's been SEO since the beginning of SEO. Of course you want clean informational architecture. Of course you want one H1. You want supporting headings. They should all be related to the primary core topic. You shouldn't put things in all sorts of custom containers. Yeah, that's SEO. NAP consistency, name, address, phone number, Well, I mean, that's like the beginning of SEO, right? So I don't even need to address that, right? There's people also ask video packs. You probably remember featured snippets. If you've worked with an agency in the past, you probably had your rep email you or call you and go, look at this featured snippet you're in. That was a precursor to AI overviews, right? Featured snippets were Google's algorithm found a piece of information within a document that best answered the question and produced a featured snippet. So none of this is new, right? This is SEO, but we're forgetting that, we're not seeing the forest for the trees, and we're going to talk about not only the processes of how generative outputs come to be, but then again, we want to reinforce those best practices. One of the things that is bothersome now is we want to get away from keyword ranking as a primary metric of success. Number one, you don't rank in LLMs. You become part of the conversation by being a citation in the outputs, but there is no ranking in the LLMs. Ranking historically has also been an approximation, right? Even Google Search Console says your average position, because again, search results are personalized, especially for local SEO. Your proximity to the consumer influences at least the local pack, right? Influences results. Their click history, meaning if they've engaged in your website or someone else's website, influences the results that they see. So, and just focusing on a keyword with the many varieties in which people search for things, the many ways you or I or someone else searches for something is not going to be semantically, word for word, verbatim, the same. So we want to capture a greater breadth of keywords. It's about growth of how many different queries we're capturing with our topics, not our keywords. Aiming for simply more traffic, right? We can write a blog post tomorrow that gets you 10,000 sessions, but does that help you sell an RV? No. We want traffic to the right pages. Yes, there is a place for informational blogs, but they should, number one, be based in real-world consumer search and needs and address that. And then it should be strategically interlinked to drive them on a customer shopping journey through the site. So it's not just about more traffic, it's about more traffic, or it's about the right kind of traffic to the right pages. Choosing a strategy based on more content. This is an outdated tactic. Content depth is greater than content frequency. If you are not focused on number one, addressing the core intent of the search, and then doing your due diligence through using people also ask scrapers, or the tool also asked, answer the public. If you're not leveraging Reddit threads to mine customer sentiment, natural language, if you're not trying to understand what are the additional needs this consumer is going to have based on this core topic, you are missing out on a lot. And there are a lot of agencies who are promising 20, 30, 40 pieces of content a month, and that sounds great because it's real cost efficient, right? But here's what they're doing. Here's how they keep it cost efficient. They're using ChatGPT. They're putting in a 20-word prompt to get an output that everyone else is going to get. To write a unique prompt in ChatGPT, you need to have, number one, like first-party data, unique value propositions, unique insights. On average, it's about 500 words for a prompt to get a truly unique output. It takes the average person 30 minutes to write 500 words. Extrapolate that. Those agencies aren't putting in that lift. They're giving you garbage that they're then reusing on other websites. And I'll show you an example of that. So don't choose a strategy based on more content. Choose a strategy based on depth of content. How are you truly addressing the needs, even if the customer doesn't even need to know that they're going to ask that question next? You need to anticipate that through your research. I call it being the tour guide, right? You don't go, like, if you don't go, a tour guide is helping you understand where to go, what doorway to walk through, what staircase to take, right? Without them, you're going to get lost. You need to be the tour guide for your customers. So now we set the context, right? Now we understand why we're going to primarily talk about SEO tactics and strategies, why we're focusing on search engines and not this isn't a session about ChatGPT. So let's dive into how these systems work. Now, this is going to be primarily focused on Google's documentation leaks. Mike King of iPullRank did a great deep dive into it. So why reinvent the wheel? So I credit him there. But essentially, historically, search engines have what's called a corpus of documents, right? They have a repository of all of this information based on all of the content published that it has. And so historically, right, someone would do a search and the algorithms would go and find whole documents that it perceives best matches that query, that question. Generative outputs don't work that way, right? They receive a query. They understand the context and the explicit need that you have. It starts generating its initial output. It does what's called query fan out. So it synthesizes other questions that are related to that core query you entered. So it's trying to anticipate what are other things would be relevant for you to know. Then it starts retrieving those documents. It wants to understand your intent. It goes through reasoning chains. It applies other LLMs, other sort of algorithms to start understanding how to create this output that's beneficial to you. It goes through a reasoning chain. It starts not literally asking itself questions, but it starts going through a process making sure that the reasoning is sound. What it's producing is correct for what you needed. It starts to put together the response, the output for you. But then it uses what's called, it applies user embeddings. That means it starts looking at what is your history? What have you looked for before? What have your behaviors been in the past? It wants to make sure it's tailoring the output to you specifically and not generally to everybody. Then it selects what citations best match that. So not the whole document, but the citations, the pieces of the documents that best build the answer, and pulls that and then gives you that output. Big difference from just looking for documents that have the keyword and variations of a keyword in that document. Much more sophisticated. So one of the things you can do to yourself, if you don't do it, update yourself on the search quality rater guidelines, right? Again, since things are underpinned by search and we want to understand what Google perceives as helpful content, right? The search quality raters, their feedback actually helps feed the AI systems information about what is high quality. So they're still leveraging humans to help train, help teach the AI systems. So dive into the guidelines and just, you don't have to read every word for word, but dive into it. See, generally speaking, what is quality according to Google. So with all this said, how do you get your hand raised in victory? What are the things we got to do to make sure we get that visibility? We can be parsed as an output, or we can, as I showed you at the top of the webinar, that AI overviews are not penetrating transactional searches as much. How can you show up in the local pack and those blue links? Number one, strong foundational SEO, right? There's a lot of silver bullets out there. There's a lot of talk about all these fancy things and reporting tools. At the end of the day, strong foundational SEO is needed. I have some examples. I tried to cover up the RV dealership's names. At RVDA, I did not, and the dealership was in the audience. They weren't real happy with me, so I'm going to try to avoid that embarrassment here. But let's talk about things. This is still happening in the world of SEO, right? This is still occurring. Actually, I just learned I can take myself off the screen, and you can still hear me. So this is still happening in the age of AI and all this fancy schmancy talk. We're still missing out on foundational tactics, right? This is a homepage of an RV dealership. Title tags are one of the first pieces of code that crawlers and AI crawlers use to understand what is the topical coverage of this page. What topic are we covering? And so we need to make sure that it is aligned. An RV dealership homepage should not try to cover the topic of new and used RVs. Why? Because if I'm shopping for a new RV or if I'm shopping for a used RV, Those are two different intents. Those are two different topics. We don't want to cannibalize that, right? We don't want that homepage to show up for the wrong types of topical searches, the wrong types of keywords. We want this to be RV dealership, right? RV dealer, RV dealership. And then if you're multi-location in a state, you can do Nevada, but then make sure within the site you have what's called silos, right? You have folders dedicated to each location. And each location should have its own sort of landing page as like a mini site that then interlinks to inventory, service, parts, and other pages optimized all for that specific location. But let's back out of that conversation. Again, we're missing out on the core topic we're trying to own. So let's make sure that we're focusing on the fundamentals that are going to make a difference. On that same page, we have 5 H1 tags. You don't want 5, again, clean HTML, semantic HTML, clean information hierarchy, architecture. That first H1, sign up for RV exclusive RV specials. That is not at all related to the core topic of trying to capture RV dealership searches. Your first H1 on the page doesn't have to, I shouldn't say it should be your only H1 on the page. Your H1 on the page should be related to, contain the same topical information as your title tag. It does not need to be verbatim the same. So meaning if your title tag is RV dealership in Pensacola, Florida, your H1 could be Pensacola's premier RV dealership. But we still want, whether it's Nevada, Pensacola, Florida, an RV dealership, we want that same topical information in that first heading. Again, Google can rewrite title tags. It can use your headings. It can use your meta description. It can use the top of the content, the very first paragraph of content to rewrite title tags and meta descriptions. So you want to have the most highly relevant information for that explicit need from the consumer search as you can construct. The other thing is that things like H1s provide insight on what is going to follow, right? If your title tag is your textbook cover, then you open up to chapter 1, that's your H1. Those two things should align. You don't go to chemistry class and open up to chapter 1 Shakespeare. So make sure it makes sense. These systems are pattern detection. And when you don't have consistent patterns, it throws those systems off. Imagine if you get in the car, you plug in your destination into your GPS device or GPS app, and your device says in 3.2 miles, turn right and left. Or if it says in 32 miles, take exit, you're going to get lost. Same sort of thing. You need to be precise in the patterns you set up so these systems can arrive at the destination that you are the best resource in the market for that consumer need, that consumer explicit search. The first paragraph, right? The main content on the page should always be related to the topic, should always be precise to first addressing the explicit need, and it should not be generalized generic content. I'm sorry, but if you were looking for an awesome deal on a new RV for sale in Las Vegas, you absolutely need to check out our complete inventory here at blank. Well, no one's looking for a terrible deal, and no RV dealer is going to say they offer terrible deals. This is generic verbiage that's not really providing value. What makes your deals awesome? What makes the experience at your dealership awesome? Why choose you? So get precise. Dial in deeper into really providing better information that better addresses the explicit need. What is my explicit intent if I'm searching for RV dealership? Well, I might be looking, now in the context, now you address that. I might be looking for new, I might be looking for used, I might be looking for a certain brand. All these details are really absent from this. It's about precision in language, and we'll talk about more about that in a minute. This happens on a lot of RV websites. You land on the home page and up pops this special. I didn't click on it to open it up. I didn't engage with anything for it to take over the screen. It just popped up. This is called an intrusive interstitial. Now you might say, Dane, I send traffic from other sources. I want to try to capture those leads. Well, okay. But just so you know, the page experience update Google went through devalues pages that have automatic pop-ups. They're called intrusive interstitials because they are intruding upon the consumer's ability to engage with the website. So be intentional about what features you have. Sure, you can have your deal maybe pop up as a widget in the lower corner, and then when I click on that, it opens up to the deal. But nothing should, whether it's a chat bot, a special, nothing should just automatically pop up. It's deranking the page. This page, it's for used RVs for sale. Number one, you can look up in the URI, so the URL, all right, up in the search bar, RVs for sale. Number one, as I said earlier about silos, this RV dealer has locations, as you can see, in Texas, Indiana, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Illinois. That is not how you optimize for being found for used RVs for sale in 5 different states. Again, you'd want to have a landing page for your locations in Texas. And there's even more listed, even in the context, Nevada. You want to have a landing page for each location in Texas, each location in Nevada, in Oklahoma and Kansas. Wherever you have a location, there should be a folder. So rvdealer.com, /locations /Texas /San Antonio or Dallas or Austin. And then it'd be, Austin RV dealership. And then within that, you have your new RVs, your used RVs for sale that are specific to the Austin location, specific to the Dallas location. The reason that is because just throwing in a bunch of states or a bunch of cities into a title tag and or into an H1 and or into a sentence of content does not get you found in those markets. Again, every page of content should cover a single topic. And again, if I'm a shopper in Illinois looking for used RVs and you're a shopper in Texas looking for used RVs in Texas, those are 2 different topics that need specific signals, specific coverage, specific patterns that need to be in place. So that way you're not obfuscating, you're not muddying the waters, you're reducing clarity for that pattern detection. So this is done all wrong. The whole strategy at the very top of the level is done all wrong. That's what I'm saying. Strong foundational SEO, understanding that local search operates different than traditional search. If you're looking for a pizza recipe versus if you're looking for a pizza delivery, those are 2 completely different topics. 2 completely different types of algorithms are applied to find what best matches that search. So again, you need to be very precise in the patterns you are creating. Structured data. Structured data is code markup that helps delineate information. Again, think about how precise your GPS device is. Structured data is another layer of information for these crawlers to understand what this content is about. So, if you are a RV dealer in here, I'm going to use Pensacola. That's where I'm at. If you're an RV dealer in Pensacola, Florida, you should have auto dealer schema that outlines your geographic location, like your geographic coordinates, your address, your phone number, your hours of operation, your departments, all these different details that help further delineate, clarify the who, the what, and the where. Or on pages like this. This is a frequently asked questions page. There's no FAQ schema. Again, there's specific schema you can apply that, again, helps clarify, delineate, feed an extra data layer to these systems to better understand what's on this page. And oftentimes there are RV dealers that don't have any schema on any page at all. Now, again, you want to be very discerning on what schema you put on a page, right? You don't just like, oh, I want to apply this schema. You don't apply every schema there is that we have. You want to be very precise about the schema you choose. And there's strategic reasons when you should implement it. And FAQs is certainly, an FAQ page is certainly one of those instances. Google Business Profile. I'll address, why that's important also for LLM systems. But let's just talk about even just for local search, because this is one of the instances, this is often the first touch point that consumers have with your RV dealership. Now, I want to be very precise here. So, let's say it's Saville RV, right? So there's that blacked out name. Let's say it's Saville RV Las Vegas, right? This is a multi-location RV dealership. Unless the legal business name is Saville RV Las Vegas, that is called keyword stuffing. That is against Google policy. The naming convention of your Google Business Profile should match what I see on the website. It should match the signage I see from when I come to the dealership. So if I come to Saville RV in Las Vegas, the signage better be Saville RV Las Vegas, right? When I'm signing the paperwork, the legal entity I should be signing my business to should be Saville RV Las Vegas. If it's not, it's breaking policy. Now, I've talked to dealers, RV dealers in the past, who go, look, I've had those extra keywords in my GBP for the past 3 years and nothing's happened. Okay. I can only tell you as a professional, I can only give you my professional opinion and guidance. If you want to play with fire, whether algorithmically or manually, you will get burned. It's a matter of time. So I'm always gonna offer best practices, right? Here's another issue. This RV dealership offers service and parts. There is no service and no departments listings. Yes, if you have service department and a parts department at your dealership, you should have a service GBP and a parts GBP that gets nested within the main sales GBP. The reason that is, you get to choose more relevant categories. You get to show up for more types of searches. You align with the consumer intent, right? It's about people first. If I type in, RV service near me, or a specific service that I need for my RV, your service department listing shows, I open that up. Your hours of operation are for your service department. Your phone numbers for your service department. Your address, is for your service department. Your everything, every feature is about service. So your website link deep links to your service scheduler, your service center page. So whether I click on the link or I look at the hours or I click to call, every engagement aligns with my need. I'm not landing on the home page and then navigating the service. Every time we can remove a friction point for consumers, we should remove that friction point. Google Business Posts. Make sure that images are formatted well. I often see where they'll be showcasing an RV and half the RV is cut off, or the interior, you only see part of it and you're missing some of the description that's in the copy. Make sure images are formatted well. Focus on sales. Focus on the customer experience. So if you take pictures with happy customers, send that to your agency or your internal team. Parlay that into a Google post. Show off the experience people are going to have. Or look in analytics. Where are you having those highly engaged sessions on your site? What's the content people are engaging with? Parlay that into a Google post. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now, vehicles for sale was just deprecated recently, so we're going to gloss over that. But the description. Make sure the description for your GBP highlights your selling propositions, is very precise in the language of delineating like that you have new, you have used, maybe some of your top selling brands, you have service, you have parts. Be very precise in how you flesh out that profile description. And then lastly, these social media profile icons. Number one, you know, don't just you don't link your profiles just because you can, right? If you're not using your Instagram account, why would you then have your Instagram show up in your GBP? I click on that, I see that you're not using it at all. But here's the other thing. Make sure you audit this yourself because agencies can be lazy. Well, not all, but some. So I didn't cover up Lazy Days name, and here's why. This dealership that I covered the name, if you click on their X profile, it goes to Lazy Days RV. This dealership is not Lazy Days RV. So make sure that the work that people are going to engage with, is all accurate. That often worries me. I often say, look, if what I can see is sloppily done, what's being sloppily done that I cannot see? Again, categories, right? Again, this dealer did not have service and parts delineated, right? And not that you're going to use RV park. I just pulled in all RV categories. But right, detailing service, inspection service. If you rent, right? Some RV dealers definitely have rent their RVs. That could be a category on their main sales listing, right? The repair and maintenance, repair shop. If you have storage, supply store. So again, that's why I said there are more opportunities to show up for more types of searches that are relevant for the specific intent that search has. Oh, I don't know why those two things weren't covered. So we conducted the biggest automotive study, GBP study, pretty much in history. It was over 3,000 GBPs. Now, this was franchise car dealerships, and you're going to go, Dane, you're talking to RV dealers right now. I get that, but it's still relevant, and I'll tell you why. Number one, 20% of franchise car dealerships have the wrong primary category. I've seen RV dealers not have RV dealer as their primary category. That's why I kept that in. 47% don't have service and parts listings. Well, I just showed you an example of an RV dealer that did not have service and parts listings. Relevant. Dealers that ranked in the number one spot in the local pack had 2 times the amount of reviews to those that ranked in the 10th spot. Now, I could go through the whole process of explaining to you how we determine number 1 versus number 10 for the sake of time. I'll kind of bypass that, but we use different industry-leading tools and grids to look at averages and see like who was really ranking in those spots in a more precise manner. You can read the study if you want on the SearchLab website, but understand that reviews are very important. They're important for AI systems. They're important for consumers. They're important for ranking. So they're important all around. And so I'm going to make the safe, natural assumption that RV dealers who have more reviews are going to have a better chance at ranking better. 21% of car dealers had no auto dealer schema. Again, I've seen instances of no schema on RV dealer websites. Make sure you have that schema. And then the average homepage word count was 1,337. Robustness, depth of content. Make sure your homepage has context on it that tells the story of why choose you, that aligns with what are the explicit and implicit needs someone has to learn when they type in RV dealer, RV dealership, RV dealer near me, et cetera, et cetera. You'll often see this. It'll be, I jumped ahead by one click, but hey, and I know you see Honda dealer, but Honda icon, but this has been on RV websites. Unfortunately, when I was prepping this particular deck, I didn't find an example of it, but I have seen it. You go to your review us page, you land there, and it says, would you leave us a review, positive review, yes or no? You click yes. Oh, hey, go out to our Google, go out to all these different platforms, leave us a review. But you click no, and you get a private form. Or sometimes you can get that option, and it's just a private form. I'm going to tell you, There are things you can do to navigate this kind of, but again, I'm going to give you best practices, right? As a practitioner, I'm not going to try to give you this weird gray area. This is called review gating. Anytime where you collect reviews, whether it's only negative or all reviews privately, even if you have the best of intentions, that's review gating. You need to just have the public facing icons, links to those platforms to let them leave a public review. Review gating is a Google violation and an FTC violation. Yes, the government can fine you a hefty sum. So be careful. Information gain. I said I was going to talk more about precision of language, right? So this was a blog about comparing Class A to Class B RVs, right? So you have some of this language, right? They're often recognized as the pinnacle of RV living, unique blend home-like comfort, freedom of the road, heavy-duty frame. But here's the thing, right? We do have some precision, right? They range from 25 feet to 45 feet in length. That's good. I like that precision, right? But spacious interiors, that first bullet. The generous square footage allows for larger living areas, master suites, and often slide outs to extend living space when parked. Generous square footage. Again, that's a general statement. Here, and you can make that statement, that's fine. But here, before I get to the next bullet point, I might want to put in a chart. I might want to put in a chart that covers the range of square footage, interior square footage for some of my different major brands. Then I might have some other information in other columns, such as the general living space square footage or master suite square footage. So maybe it's total master suite living area. Again, you can make just these sort of general statements, but then you must, if you're not going to be precise, then you must be precise following that general statement that's related to what the statement made. So if you're going to say there's generous square footage, prove it through precise information. Right? Driving ease. Despite their size, many models offer advanced driving features like rear view cameras, making them surprisingly easy to maneuver. We said advanced driving features, plural, and then we name one. What are the features, the driving features of your brands of Class A RVs do you want to highlight? Maybe that comes from keyword research of maybe what features people are searching for. Maybe that comes from your sales team of things they know customers have said they really like. Maybe it's follow-up surveys, right? There's any number of different touch points you can have. Maybe it's mining Reddit threads to see what people are saying about Class A RVs. But again, be precise. What are these features? Don't just make one generalized statement. You cannot show up in search for a variety of different types of searches that are getting longer and longer, especially on like LLMs and in AI mode. And also in AI mode asks you subsequent questions to drive you deeper. Like, how big of an RV are you looking for? So again, if you don't have the precise data and information in your content, you cannot show up either as a citation or as a blue link. So again, it's about precision, information gain. Let's address the consumer's explicit need first and then build on that. You should have readable, well-formatted content. Don't do this. On October 14th, essential tips for camping with a travel trailer. On the 13th, they had done essential tips and guidelines for tailgating with an RV. On the 6th, they had done essential factors to consider when buying an RV. On the 22nd of September, essential tips and guidelines for RV camping in the fall. August 11th, essential tips for beach camping with an RV. Essential cooking accessories, essential preparations. This is just throwing spaghetti at the wall. You want to understand precisely what are the true long tail questions people are asking. Actual real world consumers are asking about RV life, about buying an RV, about comparing an RV, about servicing an RV, about using an RV. And we want to match the language. Is somebody really going into Google and typing in, oh, please give me the essential tips and guidelines for tailgating with an RV? If maybe the people are looking for tips about tailgating, but what are the actual words people are using? So again, be smart about how you're crafting your campaign. And don't do this. Don't just do big blocks of text, right? I said earlier, at the top of the webinar where we said about GEO, and people go, well, GEO loves bullet lists and numbered lists and charts and graphs. Yes, people do too. People want an easy reading experience. They want to be able to skim a page of content to find the information. So don't just do headline, big block of text, headline, big block of text. How can you break things up and even maybe selectively bold a word or two, and not just like every other word randomly? How can we make this more readable for consumers and for systems to pull out the information that they need more easily? Here's where I said about content, where agencies are like, we'll give you 20, 30, 40 pieces of content. They just repurpose it, right? These agencies and RV platforms are the worst. Sorry if you work for an RV at CMS. It's true in pretty much every industry. They're not good at SEO. And they have templates. And all they do is they replace one RV name with your RV name. They replace that city with your city. And you can see that second sentence, the very second sentence on this RV service webpage is on Empire RV and Marine, funtownworldrv.com, Funtown RV, and it's on other websites too, right? In the screenshot, I can only capture so many. That's on dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of other websites. And here's why that's important. Because duplicate content there's no penalty, right? You're not going to get penalized for duplicate content. But here's the thing. There is an algorithmic measurement called content effort. So before Google even starts going through applying its algorithms to rank things, one of the very first thing Google says to itself is this page of content easily replicable? Can someone replicate this page easily? Or does it take a lot of effort to produce this content? When you have duplicate content, Google doesn't even have to measure whether or not it can be duplicated because it is replicated. It is duplicated. So from the bat, Google is saying this has very low effort, so it has very low value. So before it even gets to algorithmic ranking measurements and signals, right off the bat, you're at a disadvantage. To do that, to see if you have duplicate content, highlight a sentence on a web page, copy it, go into Google search. You can kind of see it there on my screen. Put 2 double quotes, plop that sentence in between the 2 double quotes, and then you'll see whether or not only you show up for it or other folks show up for it. So that's a quick, crude way to see if you have duplicate content. Links and brand mentions. Like I said earlier, there are things you want to go about a little bit differently for generative outputs. One of those things is having other assets on the web talk about your business, whether it's user-generated content, whether it's public relations efforts that then have articles written about you, whether it's local newspapers, local magazines. Excuse me. You want to have mentions about your business across the web. You want to be consistent about what that message is. It needs to be accurate. But having different people talking about your business off of your website is important. So get involved with local community efforts. Host fundraisers. Do different things where you can get links from those other organizations' websites and a description of your business. Don't just get the link. Have that link be part of a description, a mention of who you are and what you offer to the community. Again, focusing on your unique value propositions, not just you're an RV dealer with great inventory. Why precisely you instead of the next RV dealer down the street? You can write about local events, local things, new local businesses. Do the outreach to that organization. Get a link from their website to that content that mentions them. Again, be involved in multiple layers. Reviews. I already said earlier, I don't need to waste much time talking about that because I do want to leave time for questions. And I know I'm coming up on the end of the hour. So reviews are important, right? Best searches, Google's going to use their review, GBP reviews, right? Review count, review score. Both matter. Frequency of reviews. ChatGPT will use GBP for best type searches. So again, having a good reputation on the web, particularly GBP too, is important. Now, get a diverse portfolio of reviews. Don't just rely on GBP only. Yes, you do want to have a good cadence of GBP reviews, but you can also get reviews on other platforms that are important as well, whether it's Yelp or another industry specific review platform or other review platforms relevant for your business. One of the last things is do things that your competitors are not willing to do. Do things that give customers a good experience, that make them talk about you. So again, this probably should have been with links and brand mentions, but here in Pensacola, there's a car dealership that every time someone buys a car, this car dealer's principal also owns a German bakery. When you buy a new car, you get a freshly baked apple strudel. And dozens of people talk about this apple strudel. This is user-generated content because not only do they mention the apple strudel, but then they also talk about the good experience they had at the dealership. Get people talking about you. Get substantive reviews. Get reviews with images. You can see that one review was left a month ago. The other one was 9 months ago. These were actually the native most relevant reviews, right? When you land on GBP, the default of reviews is most relevant. They stayed most relevant. Why? Because they had details, because they had pictures. So more detailed and more media-rich, substantive reviews stay natively as relevant longer. You should know who you're stepping up to. So I said some things need to be different for generative outputs. Your agency partner internal team should have a tool, whether it's internal or a partnership, a tech stack that identifies what AI systems, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, know about your business and know about your competitors, you as a brand, and core key topics that relate to your brand. What is your visibility? What sources are the LLMs using to build that understanding of who and what you are? Right? Travel trailer, right? How well do you have visibility compared to your competitors? Do you have an action plan to address gaps, to address insight inaccuracies or lack of insights? So do you have a step-by-step plan to have better visibility in LLMs? In this age, you should. Before I get to the summary and questions, I'm going to stop here for just a second. This is a QR code. If what you heard is relevant to you, if what you heard is important, if what you've heard you makes sense and you want to understand your positioning, that QR code will take you so you can schedule an audit that I'll conduct. We'll look at your website. We'll look at your GBP. We'll give you actionable feedback on a Google Meet. And we'll connect on a Google Meet. We'll give you actionable feedback. That audit is yours to have in perpetuity, right? So if you go, Dane, we're going to handle this internally, it's yours, right? So if our director of business development, Diane Reed, is already not hounding you and harassing you, I joke, I kid, because Diane's probably watching. If you're not already connected with us, seriously, please do so. So let's get to the summary. Let's get to some questions. So number one, beware of snake oil, right? Beware of snake oil. Make sure that you're not falling for the trap of these different gurus and folks who are trying to purport they know what's going on. Your website still matters. Think topics and relevance, not keywords. On and off-site, local SEO fundamentals remain vital. Content depth is greater than content frequency. Your brand building is more important than ever. Reviews are and have honestly been a crux to visibility. Success metrics of years past are not success metrics of today. Know what LLMs understand about your business. And I forgot to take out the booth 431. There is no booth 431 for this webinar. Woo, wow, that was an oversight. Bad on me. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to be quiet for a moment and see if any questions pop up in the Q&A. And if you don't have a question, maybe stick around because maybe a question will be asked that is important to you. Oh, and we actually have one already. Oh, you're killing me, Smalls. It's a PPC question. We've been talking about SEO. Oh, all right. Well, you know what? Luckily, I actually prepped for this. I know that we're covering SEO, but I connected with one of our amazing folks, Susan Yen. She's a recognized authority and speaker on PPC. So here we go. What are the main benefits of owning our ad account versus having an agency manage it under their account? And what access control should we expect to have? Whew, thank God that was a pretty easy one, because even before I talked to Susan, I know why you should own your own ad account. So here's the thing. It gives you full control. It gives you transparency. It gives you long-term stability. Your data, your performance history, your audience, and your billing stays with you, not the agency. When you own your ad account, you never have to start from scratch if you switch partners, right? You're going to get clear insights in every dollar spent, every change made. The platforms perform better with consistent data over time, right? And if you should always have full admin access to your ad accounts, analytics, tracking, billing. The agency should be added as a manager on your account, not the owner of the account. This is a PPC crowd, huh? How should we approach digital marketing and PPC strategies? What are best practices for maintaining brand consistency while tailoring to each local market? So, let me think. I'm going to think on that just for a quick second. How should we approach digital marketing? Oh, and that was for multiple locations. I missed that part. Um, you know, most dealerships have same brand when you're multi-location, you have the same branding messaging, right? But digital campaigns should balance local relevance with a centralized strategy. So again, and that's true also for SEO, PPC SEO. You balance what is that primary strategy, what are the objectives, and that can objectives can be tailored, of course, for each dealership. But then you want to balance that local relevance, right? For PPC, you run separate campaigns per location. For SEO, you build out silos per location. In PPC, that ensures clean performance tracking and direct leads to the store. In SEO, same sort of thing. It sort of directs traffic to the right area on the website based on where they're at to build that relevancy, right? For PPC, actually, because that was one thing, anticipating that there might be a multi-store group. Actually, I'll just even read an answer that Susan gave to me. Or you can combine campaigns if you want to share data and budgets across locations, but only if all Google business profiles are connected. Geo-targeting is precise, and messaging accounts for local differences. For campaigns, location-based targeting and location-based targeting and inventory-based campaigns lead to best results with PPC. Sorry, I messed some of that up because I couldn't anticipate all of that. As a smaller independent RV dealer, what strategies can we use to effectively compete against corporate dealers with massive marketing budgets? So I'll repeat that again. So you must be a smaller independent dealer, I'm guessing. As a smaller independent RV dealer, what strategies can we use to compete effectively against huge corporate dealers with massive budget and presence, right? I would say, based on my conversation with Susan, what I can recall is I would say a small RV dealer, and this will make sense even if you're not really adept at PPC, right? You start with a tight geo-targeting and you make sure you have accurate conversion tracking. You will want to focus on like a small, high-value area first because you want to emphasize quality of leads over quantity of leads. Then, as your campaign performs for you, you can expand, right? So gradually expand as that campaign delivers that ROI. This is very true, for SEO and PPC. Highlight your unique strengths, use local intent keywords, continuously monitor results. PPC, double down on what works and pause what's too costly or underperforming. Be smart about your budget. Spend wisely, not just more. This approach maximizes your budget and helps you compete effectively against those larger corporate dealers. And we have one last one so far. Again, and they're all PPC related. No one's got anything for me for SEO. What are the most cost effective keywords for RV dealers right now? And should we focus more on branded searches, inventory specific terms like Class A motorhomes for sale, or broader RV terms? So, what are the most cost effective RV terms right now? So, again, I had pretty good prep here. I had pretty good anticipatory questions for Susan. So for smaller RV dealer, the most effective, cost-effective, PPC strategy is going to focus again on high-intent local searches. Use inventory-specific geo-targeted keywords such as, yes, Class A motorhomes for sale, city. Use travel trailers near me. Whatever brand of RV, Grand Design RVs for sale, city, state. Include local keywords. Again, near me, city, branded terms. So your dealership or brand you carry. You want to capture those ready to buy customers, and then avoid generic keywords like RVs or campers because they're costly and they typically, historically, according to our team, have attracted lower quality leads. So again, focus on quality over quantity, monitor, and then again, eliminate things that just aren't giving you value. That was the last question, unless not, I'll give it a couple more seconds for any others to pop up here. Otherwise, in just a moment, I'm going to close out the webinar. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I hope you found this valuable, and I hope to speak to you soon. So again, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, no other questions. So we're officially closing this out. Again, everyone, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.